Finally, we look at how to test for the torch infections. The torch panel or the torch screen is the group of tests used to aid in diagnosing torch infections. It can detect the infections produced by the following microorganisms: Toxoplasma gondii, Treponema pallidum, rubella virus, cytomegalovirus, and herpes simplex virus. Some other infections may also be tested for at the same time, like varicella zoster virus, paravirus B19, and others. Pregnant women, especially in early pregnancy, and newborn infants can be tested. The doctor may order the torch panel if the infant has any signs or symptoms indicative of one of the infections. As we saw, torch infections can adversely affect the pregnancy. Therefore, it is important to detect infections early in the pregnancy so they can be treated if possible. Detecting possible infections in the newborn can help decide appropriate management of the baby's health. For each microorganism present on the torch panel, there are two methods of detecting it in the laboratory. The first one is serology. This method relies on detecting antibodies that our immune system produces when exposed to the microorganisms. The levels of different antibodies are measured in the blood sample taken from the patient. There are two types of antibodies that our body makes. The first antibody to be produced in response to infection is immunoglobulin M, or IgM. The level of IgM in the blood rises for a short period and then declines. This level falls to an undetectable amount eventually. Therefore, the presence of IgM antibodies in the blood of a person indicates a recent infection. Immunoglobulin G, or IgG, takes a longer time to be produced by the body. However, once IgG is produced, it stays in the blood for the entire life and protects against reinfection by the same microorganism. Thus, the presence of IgG in the blood indicates that the person has been exposed to the microorganism in the past. When testing for syphilis, nonspecific and specific antibodies are detected. Nonspecific antibodies decline after successful treatment. A nonspecific test that is used is called VDRL. On the other hand, specific antibodies stay for the whole life. The second method is direct detection. This method is used to make the diagnosis of an active infection with one of the torch organisms. It relies on directly detecting the microorganism or its genetic material in body fluids or lesions. Depending on what type of infection is suspected, the doctor will take one of the following samples from the baby. Cerebrospinal fluid testing, which requires a lumbar puncture or spinal tap, is often used to confirm toxoplasmosis, herpes, and rubella. Urine may be cultured for cytomegalovirus. Skin lesions may be scraped and cultured for herpes simplex virus, or amniotic fluid from the mother's womb to check if the fetus has been infected. To confirm the active infection, the microorganism is then cultured, observed under the microscope, or its genetic material detected through a technique called PCR, or polymerase chain reaction. If the IgM is negative and IgG positive, then the person had a past infection. If the IgM and IgG are negative, then the person has no infection or has a very early infection. If the IgM is positive and IgG negative, the person has an early infection, or if in a newborn, this will indicate a congenital infection. And if the IgM and IgG are positive, this means that the person has a current infection, or a chronic infection, which could indicate a reactivation. If the mother had an infection in the past, the newborn may receive IgG from her through the placenta. This prevents the child from catching the infection for a limited time. Hence, the baby will be positive for IgG and negative for IgM. Detection of the pathogen indicates that the person has an active infection.